She thought her night shift was over until a team of Navy SEALs burst in, stood at attention, and called her ma'am. No one expected the quiet nurse to hold the key to a mission that could change everything. The night shift had been long, and Nurse Amara Davis wiped the sweat from her brow as she finished the last of her paperwork. The hospital's emergency wing was quiet now, too quiet. Most of the staff had gone home hours ago, leaving her to make her rounds alone. She moved with practiced efficiency, checking vitals, straightening beds, and silently reassuring patients who were too exhausted or frightened to speak. To everyone, she was invisible, just another nurse following the rules, keeping her head down. Amara had grown used to being unnoticed. It was easier that way. She didn't need accolades or recognition. Her focus was on doing her job perfectly, even when it went unappreciated. The hum of fluorescent lights, the faint beeping of monitors, the distant murmur of the janitor sweeping the halls, it was all familiar, almost comforting. Then, just as she was about to log the final patient's chart, a sudden roar shattered the silence. The ground vibrated under her feet, a deep, almost mechanical hum that made her chest tighten. Heart racing, she rushed to the window at the end of the hall. Outside, the hospital entrance was suddenly a scene from a war movie. Black tactical vehicles screeched to a stop, headlights cutting through the foggy night. Soldiers poured out, their movements precise, disciplined, and terrifyingly fast. Amara froze. For a split second, she thought it was some kind of drill, a nightmare she would wake from. But the SEALs weren't training. They were here, and they were looking for her. "Ma'am, step outside immediately," one of them barked, his voice carrying authority that made every hair on her arms stand on end. Amara blinked. "Ma'am?" Her mind struggled to process what she was hearing. She had spent years saving lives, quietly, in the background, never commanding, never being the center of attention. And now, a squad of Navy SEALs was saluting her like she was in charge of something monumental. Her pulse quickened. She grabbed her coat, her ID badge bouncing against her chest, and walked briskly toward the entrance. Every step felt surreal, as if she were walking through someone else's story. The soldiers formed a respectful line as she stepped outside, weapons lowered but ready. Their eyes were locked on her, filled with something that bordered on reverence. Amara's mind raced. Why me? What did they think I could do? But before she could speak, a senior officer stepped forward, a tall man, his 4-star insignia glinting under the hospital lights. His expression was unreadable, a perfect mask of discipline. But when his gaze met hers, there was a flicker of acknowledgement, a hint that he knew something about her that no one else did. "Amara Davis," he said, voice calm but firm. "We've been waiting for you." She opened her mouth, closed it, and then realized she didn't know what to say. Waiting for her? For what? She was just a nurse, just a quiet face in the hospital corridors. And yet, something in the way the SEALs stood, the way the officer's eyes didn't waver, made her stomach twist. This was no ordinary night. "Ma'am," another soldier said, stepping forward and offering a folded tablet. "Your presence is required immediately. We have a situation that only you can handle." Amara took the tablet with trembling hands. The screen displayed a list of files, locations, and cryptic notes she barely understood. Her training as a nurse had never prepared her for this. This was tactical, strategic, life and death beyond anything in the emergency room. And yet, deep inside, something clicked. Memories she had buried long ago surfaced. Years of specialized training, missions she had completed before donning a nurse's uniform. Skills she had hidden from the world. Skills that had made her exactly the person standing here, being saluted by Navy SEALs at this precise moment. Her breath hitched. The familiar calm that she maintained in surgery and emergency situations surged back. Sharp, precise, unflinching. She looked at the soldiers and the officers standing before her. "All right," she said, her voice steady. "Tell me everything." A flash of relief crossed the officer's face, quickly masked by professional composure. There isn't much time. We need you, now. Amara nodded. Without hesitation, she adjusted her coat, checked the tablet again, and followed the line of SEALs to the tactical vehicles. Cameras and night vision scopes mounted on the black trucks reflected the hospital lights. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with purpose. For the first time in years, the quiet nurse, the one everyone had ignored, was finally being recognized for exactly who she was. As the vehicles roared to life, Amara glanced back at the hospital. Patients still asleep in their rooms, nurses and doctors she had worked alongside, oblivious to the storm unfolding just beyond the sliding doors. No one had noticed, no one had expected, and that had always been her advantage. She climbed into the lead vehicle, the SEALs already settled in with military precision. The officer took the seat beside her, handing her a secure earpiece. "We'll explain everything on the way. But one thing is certain," he said quietly, locking eyes with her. "We wouldn't be here if it weren't for you." Amara's fingers tightened around the tablet. Silence enveloped the vehicle, broken only by the hum of the engine and the faint whisper of strategy being transmitted through encrypted channels. She exhaled slowly. The life she thought she had left behind, the missions, the training, the secrets, were calling her back, and she would answer. Outside, the hospital lights flickered against the night sky, casting long shadows over the arriving SEALs and the dark tactical vehicles. Inside, the world remained oblivious. Outside, the quiet nurse had become the fulcrum of an operation that could change everything. And just like that, her night shift was over. The tactical vehicle bounced over uneven asphalt as it tore through the night, emergency lights cutting through the fog. Amara sat upright, her fingers gripping the edge of her seat, eyes scanning the encrypted files on the tablet. Each name, each coordinate, each note was a puzzle piece of a larger operation, an operation that had somehow brought her back from obscurity into the center of a storm she thought she had left behind. Beside her, the four-star officer, Admiral Hayes, exuded calm authority. His gaze never left the road ahead, but his brief glances at her were measured, almost assessing. The SEALs in the back communicated only in low whispers, their eyes alert, scanning shadows and corners, always anticipating threats. Amara was no stranger to tension, but this was different. This wasn't a hospital emergency or a critical surgery. It was real-world danger, tactical decisions, and life-or-death consequences. "Amara," Hayes began, voice low but firm, "the situation is delicate. This isn't just about medical expertise. We're counting on your field experience. There's a team compromised overseas, and the intel suggests a breach. Only someone with your skill set can extract the data and secure the personnel." Her pulse quickened, but her expression remained neutral. "You mean they need me to go back into—" Her voice trailed, but the meaning was clear. She had tried to leave that life behind, but fate had other plans. Hayes nodded. "Exactly, and there's no time for hesitation. SEAL teams are trained for this, but they're missing a critical component." Amara's mind flashed back to her own training. Years ago, she had been part of a covert medical and tactical operations unit, handling missions that blurred the line between battlefield medicine and combat strategy. But she had left that life, hidden her skills behind a nurse's uniform, and built a quiet existence where no one would ask uncomfortable questions. No one had noticed, no one had questioned. Until now. Her fingers brushed the tablet again. The operation plan was daunting. She scanned the schematics of the building, the placement of guards, and the emergency evacuation routes. Every detail was precise, almost like a blueprint for a war game, but one where real lives hung in the balance. She knew the stakes. A young SEAL in the back, barely more than 20, leaned forward. "Ma'am, Nurse Davis, you really did this before?" His tone carried awe and disbelief, as if he couldn't reconcile the quiet nurse he had seen earlier with the operative being described on the tablet. Amara allowed herself a small, controlled smile. Let's just say, experience matters. Her voice was calm, but her mind was already calculating how to move, what contingencies to prepare for, which paths were safest. This wasn't about pride, it was about survival and precision. The vehicle slowed as they approached a nondescript warehouse at the edge of the city. Floodlights cut through the darkness, illuminating armored guards and surveillance cameras. The SEALs quickly disembarked, weapons at the ready. Amara stepped out, her movements fluid, instinctive. The night air hit her like a jolt, heightening every sense. Stay sharp, Hayes instructed. Intel suggests the hostiles are expecting interference. They won't hesitate. Amara's gaze swept the perimeter. She counted exits, shadows, and potential vantage points. Her training kicked in. The same calm efficiency she had applied to life-saving procedures now applied to tactical reconnaissance. She could see patterns, predict movements, and anticipate threats. The SEALs moved as a unit, silent and lethal. Amara fell into position beside them, her presence commanding immediate respect. No one questioned her authority. The salute she had received earlier wasn't just formality. It was acknowledgement of skill, of past experience, of competence that transcended rank. As they entered the warehouse, the tension was palpable. The hum of generators, the faint scraping of metal, the distant echo of voices, everything was amplified. Amara's heart remained steady, her eyes sharp. She moved through the shadows, directing the SEALs with subtle hand signals, silently coordinating their approach. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught her attention. A guard turned a corner. Without hesitation, Amara signaled left. The SEALs adjusted, neutralizing the threat silently. Not a single alarm was triggered. Her hands moved quickly, deftly, precise, her medical training translating seamlessly into tactical action. Pressure points, immobilization techniques, rapid assessments of threats. It all came together in perfect harmony. Adrenaline surged, but Amara remained calm. Every step was measured, every decision deliberate. The team reached the inner chamber, where the compromised operatives were held. The room was heavily guarded, but Amara's presence shifted the dynamic. The SEALs looked to her, ready to execute her plan. On my mark, she whispered, scanning entry. Points. We go in, secure the team, extract the intel, and exit clean. No mistakes. The team nodded. Amara's quiet authority was enough to command obedience without question. The SEALs trusted her implicitly, even though they barely knew her. That trust had been earned decades ago, in missions she had hidden from the world. And now, in this tense, silent warehouse, under the watchful glare of floodlights, the quiet nurse, the one everyone had overlooked, was leading one of the most critical operations of their lives. A distant siren wailed. The clock was ticking, and Amara, calm and precise, knew that everything depended on the next few minutes. She inhaled slowly, steadied herself, and whispered, "Let's move." Amara's heart beat in perfect rhythm with the calculated steps of the SEAL team. As they moved through the warehouse's labyrinth of crates and shadowed corridors, every footstep was silent, every glance measured. The compromised operatives were close, but so were the threats. She could feel it in the air, an almost tangible tension that made every sound, every shift of light, a potential signal of danger. She led the team toward the holding area, her mind replaying strategies she had mastered years ago. Covert extractions, silent takedowns, and rapid situational assessments. It all came flooding back, and for a moment she almost smiled. This was the life she had left behind, the part of herself she had buried under scrubs and routine, and yet it was still there, sharp and ready. A shadow moved to the left and she froze, finger raised. The SEALs followed her lead, pressing against walls, weapons raised but controlled. One guard was rounding a corner, oblivious to the silent predator they were about to encounter. Amara's movements were precise, almost surgical. Within seconds, she incapacitated the guard using a combination of pressure points and rapid takedown techniques she had perfected long ago. The team barely flinched. They had expected her to act, but the speed and efficiency left them momentarily in awe. She didn't wait for praise, there was no time. Every second counted. 2 more doors ahead, she whispered into the comms. The hostages are behind the second one. We move fast, clean, and silent. Her voice was calm, but her mind raced. She knew that behind those doors not only were lives at stake, but also critical intel that could compromise national security. Every muscle in her body tensed, her senses on high alert. She felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders like armor. As they approached the inner chamber, a sudden alarm echoed through the warehouse. A silent tripwire had been triggered. Red lights flashed, and Amara's pulse quickened, but her expression remained controlled. She had trained for contingencies, and this was exactly why. "Split and flank," she ordered, pointing to the side corridors. The SEALs obeyed instantly, moving with lethal precision. Amara herself slipped through the shadows, calculating angles and distances. Her medical training, years of performing under pressure, merged seamlessly with tactical awareness. Every heartbeat, every breath, every movement had a purpose. They reached the second door. Amara held up a hand. The SEALs froze. She examined the lock mechanism and the surrounding area. Within seconds, she had it bypassed, and the door swung open silently. Inside, the hostages huddled together, tense but unharmed. "Stay calm," she whispered, her eyes scanning for threats. The operatives looked at her with a mixture of relief and disbelief. They had been expecting another team, not a nurse leading their extraction. "Follow me," she instructed, quickly and quietly. As they moved out, the unexpected happened. 2 guards appeared at the far end of the corridor. There was no time to think. Instinct took over. Amara reacted first, her movements a blur, using her environment, her hands, her weight, disarming and neutralizing threats with calculated precision. The SEALs followed her lead, covering her flanks as they pressed forward. Once the immediate danger was neutralized, they moved into a larger room, filled with surveillance monitors and encrypted servers. Amara's eyes flicked over the equipment. "This is it," she said. "The intel is here. Extract it, and we secure the operation." The SEALs set to work under her guidance, plugging devices, downloading files, securing evidence. Every action was methodical, precise. Amara felt the familiar adrenaline surge, but unlike fear, this was controlled, focused energy, the energy of someone who knew exactly what to do, even when lives hung in the balance. And then she saw it, a small concealed weapon pointing directly at them from a shadowed corner. Before anyone could react, Amara was already moving. She pivoted, grabbed a nearby metal rod, and disarmed the threat with a swift, calculated strike. The guard crumpled, unconscious but alive. She didn't hesitate. Precision and control had always been her guiding principles. Hayes's voice came through her earpiece, calm but urgent. "Extraction point is compromised. You need to move now." Amara nodded. "Copy that," she whispered. She scanned the room, assessing exit points, planning routes. Every decision had to be exact. Hesitation could cost lives. She led the team, guiding them through a maze of corridors, back toward the vehicles. As they emerged into the night, the warehouse behind them erupted in chaos. Alarms blared, guards shouted, and floodlights swept the area. The SEALs moved with coordinated precision, but it was Amara who remained the anchor, the calm center in a storm of controlled chaos. Climbing into the lead vehicle, she allowed herself a brief glance at the team she had just saved. Relief, awe, and gratitude flashed across their faces. None of them spoke, because none of them had words for what they had just witnessed. A quiet nurse had led a full-scale tactical extraction, her skill and authority unquestioned, her experience undeniable. Hayes turned to her, expression serious but impressed. "Amara, I don't think anyone's realized what they've just seen tonight. You were exceptional." She gave a small nod, her gaze steady. I did what needed to be done, she replied, voice calm, betraying none of the adrenaline surging through her veins. But inside, a small spark of something long buried stirred. Pride, yes, but also the reminder that she had never truly left that world behind. As the vehicle sped away, the city lights reflected off her determined face. The quiet nurse, the one everyone had overlooked, had just changed the course of a high-stakes operation. And deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. The night air was thick with tension, the road ahead uncertain, but Amara's resolve was absolute. Whatever came next, she would be ready, because the world had underestimated her once, and it would not happen again. The convoy didn't slow down until they were miles away from the warehouse. City lights blurred past the reinforced windows, but inside the lead vehicle, silence ruled. Not the awkward kind, the heavy, respectful kind that follows something unforgettable. Amara sat still, shoulders squared, eyes forward. Her breathing had returned to normal, but her mind was already moving ahead, scanning possibilities. She knew this feeling. It meant the mission wasn't over. Admiral Hayes broke the silence. That intel you recovered, he said, his voice low, wasn't just compromised. It was bait. Amara turned to him slowly. Bait for who? For you. The words landed heavier than gunfire. Hayes tapped the tablet, pulling up a classified file stamped eyes only. Amara recognized the encryption instantly. Old, military grade, the kind that hadn't been used in years. The kind tied to programs that officially never existed. Someone leaked partial data knowing we'd come, Hayes continued. They wanted to see who we'd send. And when your name surfaced, they confirmed what they needed. Amara's jaw tightened. They know I'm active again, she said. Hayes didn't deny it. They've always known, he replied quietly. You disappearing into a hospital was never enough to erase your footprint. It only delayed this moment. The vehicle slowed as they entered a secured underground facility. Steel doors closed behind them with a hydraulic hiss. The SEALs disembarked first, forming a perimeter out of instinct. Amara stepped out last, her presence commanding silence without effort. Inside, the atmosphere changed. This wasn't a field base. This was command level. High-ranking officers stopped mid-conversation when they saw her. Screens paused. Conversations died. A few recognized her instantly. Others sensed her importance without understanding why. A lieutenant whispered, "That's her," before being sharply silenced. Amara felt it then. Not fear, not pride, but weight. The weight of a reputation she had tried to outrun. They entered a briefing room, the doors sealed. Hayes faced her fully now. We need to be clear, he said. What happens next isn't optional. The people behind this aren't after intel anymore. They're after leverage. Amara crossed her arms. And I'm the leverage. Yes. A new screen lit up. Surveillance footage, grainy, night vision, a hospital corridor, her hospital. Amara's blood ran cold. The footage showed nurses she recognized, a doctor she'd shared shifts with, a timestamp from just hours ago. They followed you back, Hayes said. They know where you hide now, and if they can't get to you directly, they'll use what you protect. For the first time since the SEALs had saluted her, Amara's composure cracked. Just slightly. You moved me too late, she said, voice tight. No, Hayes replied. We moved you just in time. He changed the feed. A sniper scope overlay. Zoomed on the hospital roof, Amara's fists clenched. They were setting up, Hayes said, waiting for confirmation you were involved. You gave it to them tonight. Silence swallowed the room. Then Amara exhaled, slow, controlled. The nurse was gone now. What remained was something sharper, older, dangerous in the quietest way. Then we end this, she said. The SEAL commander straightened. Ma'am? Amara looked around the room, at the officers, the screens, the plans that were already forming without her input. You don't defend a hiding place, she continued. You burn the hunters. Hayes studied her for a long moment. That's why they're afraid of you, he said finally. Not because you're lethal, because you think 3 steps ahead. A new mission file appeared on the screen. Operation Night Vale, led Amara Davis. Even the SEALs stiffened. You're putting me in command? She asked. Hayes nodded. Unofficially, you never left. She stared at the screen, not with nostalgia, not with regret, but with acceptance. Then here's how it goes, Amara said, stepping forward. We secure my hospital without tipping them off. We feed them false movement. And when they think I'm running, she looked directly at the SEALs. We let them walk into me. No one questioned her. Because the room could feel it now. This wasn't a nurse filling a gap. This wasn't an asset being reused. This was a strategist returning to the board. As the briefing continued, Amara's mind sharpened with every detail. Routes, timing, human behavior, fear patterns. She knew how predators thought, because once, long ago, she had been trained to hunt worse. And somewhere out there, people had made a mistake. They had pulled a quiet nurse back into a world that remembered her name. The lights dimmed. The final screen showed a live feed of the hospital exterior. Calm, normal, unaware. Amara stared at it. Shift's not over, she murmured. And this time, the night was coming with her. The hospital looked the same from the outside. Bright lights, automatic doors sliding open and shut, ambulances coming and going. Normal. But Amara knew better. From the command vehicle parked 2 blocks away, she watched the live feeds split across multiple screens. Thermal scans, motion sensors, blind spots mapped in red. Every entrance accounted for. They're already in position, she said calmly. A SEAL beside her frowned. How can you tell, ma'am? We don't see. You don't see movement, Amara interrupted, eyes locked on the screen. You see absence. Security cameras looping by half a second. One janitor walking the same path twice. That's not random, that's staging. The room went quiet. Hayes leaned closer. Confirmation? Amara tapped the screen. A thermal outline flickered, then disappeared near the stairwell. There, she said. Sniper team, 2-man element, ex-military, nervous. How do you know that? Someone asked. Because professionals don't hesitate like that, Amara replied. Only people who know they're hunting the wrong target. She straightened. Execute phase 1. Outside, the hospital security lights dimmed, just enough to look like a power fluctuation. Inside, unaware staff continued their rounds. To them, Amara was still just Nurse Davis, the quiet one, the one who never caused trouble. That was the lie the hunters believed. In the stairwell, the sniper adjusted his scope. Target hasn't returned yet. Patience, the second man whispered. Command wants confirmation. They never saw her coming. Amara moved through the hospital corridors like a ghost. No uniform now. Dark jacket, hair pulled back, movements silent. 2 SEALs shadowed her, but even they were struggling to keep pace. She stopped at the stairwell door. Wait, she whispered. A faint sound. Breath, too controlled. She reached up, twisted the handle slowly, then stepped inside. And the fight was over in 6 seconds. 1 man disarmed, pinned, unconscious. The second froze, staring at her like he'd seen a ghost. You were told I'd run, Amara said quietly. The man swallowed. They said you were just a nurse. Her eyes hardened. That's where they failed. She nodded once. The SEALs took them away. Across the hospital, other teams moved in perfect sync. Threats neutralized, no shots fired, no panic. Patients slept through the entire operation. In the command vehicle, Hayes watched the feeds in disbelief. She dismantled them, he said, without triggering a single alarm. A junior officer whispered, Who is she? Hayes didn't look away from the screen. She's the reason half our contingency manuals exist. Minutes later, Amara stepped back into the main lobby. Doctors froze. Nurses stared. Security guards stiffened. Behind her, Navy SEALs entered in full view. They didn't rush. They didn't shout. They lined up, right there, in the hospital lobby. Then, together, they stood at attention and saluted. Every conversation died. A nurse gasped. A doctor whispered, "Is that for her?" Amara stopped. Slowly she turned. The SEAL commander stepped forward. "Ma'am, threat neutralized, hospital secure." The word ma'am echoed, not shouted, not forced, earned. Amara looked around at the faces she'd worked beside for years. The ones who never asked questions. The ones who thought she was invisible. "I'll return to my shift," she said softly. Hayes stepped in beside her. "No," he said. "Your shift ended the moment they came for you." He raised his voice just enough. "This woman saved lives tonight, without anyone even knowing they were in danger." Silence. Then one doctor started clapping. Another followed. Then a nurse. The sound grew, not loud but real, respectful, heavy with realization. Amara didn't smile. She just nodded once and turned away. Later, as dawn crept across the sky, she stood outside the hospital again, this time not unnoticed. A SEAL handed her a folded jacket. "If you ever need us, ma'am." She met his eyes. "Let's hope I don't." He smiled. "Yes, ma'am." As the convoy rolled away, Amara walked back inside. Changed, but also the same. She passed the janitor sweeping the floors, past the nurse starting her shift, past the quiet corners where no one ever looked twice. And for the first time, she didn't need to hide, because sometimes the most dangerous people aren't the loudest. They're the ones everyone ignores. Until the moment the Navy SEALs stand up, salute, and call them ma'am. If you watched till the end, you already know. Real power doesn't shout. It waits. Like this video, if you respect the ones everyone overlooks, comment respect. If you believe the quietest people are often the most dangerous, and subscribe, because the next story might be about someone the world ignored until it was too late.